Good afternoon, boys and girls. Mrs. Disidore here. Today is Tuesday, March 31st, and this is Mrs. Disidore's Read Aloud for 4th and 5th grades, and we are reading Skellig. Yesterday, we read chapter 1 and did a little introduction of it, and we learned yesterday about the main character, who is Michael, and he and his parents have moved into a new house. Doesn't seem too thrilled about the house. The house seems to need a lot of work. Also, we learned that the mother was pregnant and their baby came too early. So that's kind of where we left off. Okay, so now we're going to read chapter 2. I nearly got into the garage that Sunday morning. I took my own flashlight and shined it in. The outside doors to the black lane must have fallen off years ago, and there were dozens of massive planks nailed across the entrance. The timbers holding the roof were rotten, and the roof was sagging in. The bits of the floor you could see between the rubbish were full of cracks and holes. The people that took the rubbish out of the house were supposed to take it out of the garage as well, but they took one look at the place and said they wouldn't go in it even for extra money. There were old chests of drawers and broken wash basins and bags of cement, ancient doors leaning against the walls, deck chairs with the cloth seats rotted away. Great rolls of rope and cable hung from nails. Heaps of water pipes and great boxes of rusty nails were scattered on the floor. Everything was covered in dust and spider webs. There was mortar that had fallen from the walls. There was a little window in one of the walls, but it was filthy, and there were rolls of cracked linoleum standing in front of it. The place stank of rot and dust. Even the bricks were crumbling, like they couldn't bear the weight anymore. It was like the whole thing was sick of itself and would collapse in a heap and have to get bulldozed away. I heard something scratching in one of the corners, and something scuttling about. Then it all stopped, and it was just dead quiet in there. I stood, daring myself to go in. I was just about to slip inside when I heard Mum shouting to me, "Michael, what are you doing?" She was at the back door. "Didn't we tell you to wait till we're sure it's safe?" I stepped back and looked at her. "Well, didn't we?" she shouted. "Yes," I said. "So keep out, all right?" I shoved the door and it lurched half shut on its single hinge. "All right," she yelled. "All right," I said. "Yes, all right, all right." Do you not think we've got more to worry about than stupid you getting crushed in a stupid garage?" "Yes." "You just keep out then, right?" Right. Then I went back into the wilderness we called a garden, and she went back to the stupid baby. Okay, so we know the baby. That's the end of chapter 2, by the way. I can read chapter 3. They're short chapters. But just to review, in chapter 2, Michael wanted to go into the garage, but he was just kind of standing there, peering and looking in. He didn't actually go in because then his mother yelled at him. The garage is very dangerous to go into. It's like a house. It looks like a small house that's ready to fall down, and she doesn't want him in there. However, when he was looking in, he did hear something scuttling about. So let's see what chapter... Oh, another thing, the baby's there at the house, even though she came early. So we'll see. We'll get more information. Chapter 3. The garden was another place that was supposed to be wonderful. There were going to be benches and a table and a swing. There were going to be goalposts painted on one of the walls by the house. There was going to be a pond with fish and frogs in it, but there was none of that. There were just nettles and thistles and weeds and half bricks and lumps of stone. I stood there kicking the heads off a million dandelions. After a while, Mum shouted, was I coming in for lunch? And I said no. I was staying out in the garden. She brought me a sandwich and a can of Coke. "Sorry it's all rotten, and we're all in such rotten moods," she said. She touched my arm. "You understand, though, don't you, Michael? Don't you?" I shrugged. "Yes," I said. She touched me again and sighed. "It'll be great again when everything's sorted out," she said. I sat on a pile of bricks against the house wall. I ate the sandwich and drank the Coke. I thought of Random Road, where'd we come from, and all my old pals like Leaky and Coot. They'd be up on the top field now playing a match that would last all day. Then I heard the doorbell ringing and heard Dr. Death coming in. I called him Dr. Death because his face was gray and there were black spots on his hands, and he didn't know how to smile. I'd seen him lighting up a cigarette in his car one day as he drove away from our door. They told me to call him Dr. Dan, and I did when I had to speak to him. But inside, to me, he was Dr. Death, and it fit him much better. I finished the Coca-Cola, waited a minute, then went down to the garage again. I didn't have time to dare myself or to stand there listening to the scratching. I switched the flashlight on, took a deep breath, and tiptoed straight inside. Something little and black scuttled across the floor. The door creaked and cracked for a moment before it was still. Dust poured through the flashlight beam. Something scratched and scratched in a corner. I tiptoed further and felt spiderwebs breaking on my eyebrow. Everything was packed in tight, and ancient furniture, kitchen units, rolled up carpets, pipes and crates and planks. I kept ducking down under the hoses and ropes and duffel bags that hung from the roof. More cobwebs snapped on my clothes and skin. The floor was broken and crumbly. I opened a cupboard an inch, shined the flashlight in, and I saw a million bugs scattering away. I peered down into a great stone jar and saw the bones of some little animal that had died in there. Dead bugs were everywhere. There were ancient newspapers and magazines. I shined the flashlight onto one and saw that it came from nearly 50 years ago. I moved so carefully. I was scared every moment that the whole thing was going to collapse. There was dust clogging my throat and nose. I knew they'd be yelling for me soon, and I knew I'd better get out. I leaned across a heap of tea chests and shined the flashlight into the space behind, and that's when I saw him. I thought he was dead. He was sitting with his legs stretched out and his head tipped back against the wall. He was covered in dust and webs like everything else, and his face was thin and pale. Dead bugs scattered on his hair and shoulders. I shined the flashlight on his white face and his back suit. "What do you want?" he said. He opened his eyes and looked up at me. His voice squeaked like he hadn't used it in years. "What do you want?" My heart thudded and thundered. "I said, what do you want?" Then I heard them yelling for me from the house. "Michael? Michael!" I shuffled out again. I backed out through the door. It was Dad and Mom. Dad came down the path to me. "Didn't we tell you?" he started. "Yes," I said. Yes. I started to brush the dust off myself. A spider dropped away from my chin on a long string. He put his arm around me. "It's for your own good," he said. He picked up a dead bug out of my hair. He thumped the side of the garage, and the whole thing shuddered. "See?" he said. "Imagine what might happen." I grabbed his arm to stop him from thumping it again. "Don't," I said. "It's all right. I understand." He squeezed my shoulder and said everything would be better soon. He laughed. "Get all this dust off before your mother sees you, eh?" All right, that's the end of chapter 3. Just to review there, he went inside the garage and he saw something. We don't know what. It said a face, thin and pale, covered in bugs and dust like he'd been there a while. So that's where we're going to leave off. So hopefully you'll tune in tomorrow for chapters 4 and 5 of Skellig. Have a great night. Miss you guys.